Welcome to the Secret Math of Money. This show is meant for entertainment purposes only. I hold no financial certifications or information that is not generally available. No guarantees are stated or implied. It is your money, and you are responsible for any decisions you make regarding it. Hey, good morning, everybody. Today is Saturday, February 11th, 2017, and this is the Secret Math of Money. Welcome to another show. Hold on 1 minute. Sorry about that. I left my notes in the other room. Okay, so let's talk about this week's show. First of all, as I always say, this show is about I do not have any certifications from a financial institution other than my MBA. I'm not certified as a financial planner. I'm not certified as a financial analyst. I'm not certified as anything. So anything I say, take as my opinion only, okay? And leave it at that. It's my opinion. Now, what's wrong with this phone? But anyway, take it as my opinion. My goal with this show is, I don't know what's going on with my phone this week. My goal with this show is to teach people about money because nobody talks about money. I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to get you to buy anything. I'm not trying to get you to sell you any services. I am just talking about money. So with that said, this week's show is about the Fiduciary Rule, which you all heard about this week. You probably heard about it. The President Obama had made an executive order that the Fiduciary Rule for retiree consulting would kick in in April, and the current president passed a rule that said it would not kick in. So what does that mean? Fiduciary Rule. I don't know what is wrong with my phones today. I am so sorry, people. The Fiduciary Rule. So let's talk about what exactly the Fiduciary Rule is. Fiduciary Rule, and I apologize, I just took a shower, so I'm sweating. The Fiduciary Rule says that financial advisors have to act in the best interest of the people they're advising. Okay, why is that an issue? Why should that be an issue? Quite frankly, because they don't. Now, I'm not throwing shade on anybody. I'm just saying here's how it works. Without that rule, financial advisors only have to advise their clients on financial investments that are suitable. What does suitable mean? Okay, give you an example. I used to work for a large retailer who's going through some serious financial issues right now. I sell tires and batteries. A customer comes in with a car. The car is old. They're about to sell it. They just need tires to get them from the shop to the DMV or to the junkyard 5 miles away so they can junk the car. Now, I have tires to fit their car. The tires to fit their car range in price from $25 a piece to $300 a piece. All of those tires are suitable for that car, okay? Because they fit. The question is it in that person's best interest for me to sell them $300 tires when I know they're only going 5 miles? See, that's the difference between being suitable and being in the person's best interest. So let's talk about why that's an issue. If you go back 10 years ago to the financial crisis we had about 10 years ago, this was actually part of why all that stuff happened. I think in 2 weeks, the next show, I'm going to talk in more detail about what happened in 2007. But for right now, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a piece of it, how the Fiduciary Rule kicks in. There were financial advisors who were creating assets out of mortgages. And we'll talk about that on the next show about how they did this. But they were creating financial vehicles which were collections of mortgages. The way they built them, these mortgages were, this whole package was going to blow up. Okay? They built something that was going to blow up. And what did they do? They sold it to their clients. Why? Because of compensation. The financial advisors weren't necessarily compensated. And this is something you got to realize with hedge funds, especially in any kind of mutual fund. What are the people compensated on? Why are the people that are advising you, how are they compensated? That's an issue. So these guys were selling, and women were selling these assets to people designed to blow up. And when I say blow up, I don't mean grow. I mean blow up. They sold these assets, these tools, these products to people, got the compensation for it, got the commission, and then they were like done. And then they even took it further. And we'll really talk about this. They would go and buy insurance against the products that they put together in case it did blow up, which is what they designed it to do. Okay, this is how crazy this is. So talk about compensation. If you have a mutual fund, or a hedge fund specifically, some of the biggest hedge funds are about $50 billion. That's what the manager of that hedge fund is managing, a $50 billion portfolio. Now, what do you think his objective would be? Is to grow the portfolio, is to get a good return for the people investing in that portfolio, right? That's not what's happening. A lot of times, most times in hedge funds, the compensation is based on how big the fund is. So say, for example, me, I have a fund that has $1,000 in it. And every month I put another $100 in that fund. By the end of a year, I'll have $1,000 plus another $1,200. I'll have $2,200. My fund will have grown. None of that is by interest. See, when you buy a hedge fund, when you buy a mutual fund, your expectation is the person managing that fund is trying to grow the fund through investments, not just through people putting money in the fund. Okay, distinct difference. If they grow the fund, you're paying for their expertise in the market. You're expecting them to try to grow your fund through shrewd investing. Okay, they buy the right products, they buy the right assets, and the fund grows because they bought this stock and that stock, and those stocks grew, so the fund grew. That's what you would expect their goal to be. And I'm not saying it isn't, but that's not how their compensation works. And anybody who has ever been in sales, I used to be in commission sales, anybody who realtors, anybody who is in sales, they will sell what they're paid to sell. If you're a real estate agent, you are not necessarily paid for your customer satisfaction. You are paid when they buy a house. Whether they're happy or sad or whatever with that house 6 months later is kind of irrelevant. Your job is to get them to buy a house. Financial advisors, if this man's a hedge fund, or woman is a hedge fund manager, between their fee, now get this now, the fee is between 1% and 4% of the fund. Let's think about this a minute. $50 billion fund, which is not unheard of. Got a $50 billion fund. On a conservative side, if their fee is 1% of the fund, that's $500 million. Okay. Now, how hard is it to manage a mutual fund? I'm not saying it's easy, but it's basically a spreadsheet. It's basically a spreadsheet knowing where your funds is. So you're paying a company, and not you individually, but collectively, because see, we don't look at it collectively. We look at it individually. They say, well, I'm only going to charge you 1% of what you give me to hold. But here's the thing. When you multiply that by, all the people putting money in that fund, a $50 billion fund generates fees of $500 million. Think about that. Somebody's making, Powerball, okay, for doing what? For basically maintaining a spreadsheet. Now, again, I'm not trying to throw shade, but my point is this. If the fund, if year one, the fund is worth $50 billion, their fee will be $500 million on 1%. It could be as high as 4%, in which case their fee is $2 billion. If that fund grows the next year to $100 billion strictly from people putting money in it. If the return on that fund is zero, if they make absolutely no money on that fund, that $500 million fee year one is $1 billion year two, and they haven't done anything. Same token, that $50 billion fund, if he invests or she invests that money and loses money, say they lose 10% of the fund for whatever reason, their fee will go down 10%. So instead of $500 million, they'll make $450 million. You're going to pay them $450 million, and they lost your money. Now, again, they're not lying to you. They're not, doing anything. They are doing exactly what they are supposed to do. My problem, and this is just me personally, my problem is I'm paying somebody whose vested interest does not necessarily match mine. I'm paying a manager, a fund manager. My goal is to grow the money through investments. His or her compensation is based on growing the fund through getting more people to put money in. So his first goal is to get me to automatically put more money in, because every dollar I put in, he makes another penny. You might not think that's a big deal, but you put that with everybody else, and all of a sudden, his fee is $500 million. Tell me how that fund manager is working in your best interest. Okay? But so many people, we look at mutual funds. The value of a mutual fund is diversification, so that if the market drops, hopefully you'll be diversified enough that you won't feel it as bad. The same token, the market takes off, you won't ride it as much. You'll be in the middle somewhere. Years ago, Wall Street Journal used to do this experiment every year where they put the whole stock table on the wall, and they got monkeys to throw darts at the stocks. And whatever stock the monkeys hit, they would create a fake portfolio of those stocks. And at the end of the year, they would see what the return would have been had they truly invested in those stocks that the monkeys threw darts at. Okay? And many times that stock, that fake portfolio, beat a lot of managed portfolios. Why is that? Fund managers will not guarantee you any kind of return. On a hedge fund or most mutual funds, they don't guarantee anything. They will say right in the prospectus, past performance is no indicator of future performance. I have no problem with that. They are honest and upfront about it. My point is, we have to be aware of that. We have to understand that that's what they're doing. That the people managing our money may not have our best interest at heart. Same thing if you get a fund manager or a financial manager who you pay a flat fee to. Their job is to, okay, for $300 or whatever, their job is to put your stuff in order. Fine. Again, they're not lying to you. They're telling you what they're paying you for. Okay, they're telling you point blank, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. We have some funds in our portfolio that you can invest in. If you would like to, here's the returns on them. If you want to invest in them, go ahead. But I think what happens is a lot of people don't really think this stuff through, and they think, you know what, I'm letting my fund manager. How many people, think about how many of you out there put your money in your 401k, but never really go back and really look at it. You just pray to God that it's growing. Again, great investment tool. The point is, and I keep making this point with the reason I do this show, the point is we need to learn about our money. If you spend 10 minutes a week and just say, I'm going to focus on learning something about my money, 10 minutes a week, in 2 or 3 months, you will be really savvy. We don't talk about money. So the fiduciary rule, and this is why this fiduciary rule that the current president wrote an executive order to rescind so that it wouldn't go into effect. It means that specifically for retirement advisors, they do not have to prove, if ever brought to court, that they suggested or recommended assets, investments that were in their client's best interest. Think about that now. I rambled around a lot, but think about it. This person is not recommending, or this person does not have to, by law, recommend a financial opportunity that is in your best interest. Now, the fiduciary rule that we're talking about right now, from what I understand, it's only with respect to retirement funds. Other different types of financial advisors have other rules. Some have the fiduciary rule in place and some don't. But if they don't have that rule in place, are you blindly giving your money to somebody and just saying, hey, hope for the best? There was a commercial a couple of years ago by a financial advisor company, and in the commercial, it was on last year, I think, but it was a young person who was getting into investing, and they were talking to their father, and they asked, well, what if the person doesn't do their job? Do you still have to pay them? And the father was like, yeah. It's like, why? Okay. I'm not telling you to get out of any funds. I'm not telling you that. I'm not recommending you do that. I'm not recommending you change your investments at all. I never will. What I'm suggesting you do is just learn about what you're investing in. See, one of the things with mutual funds also is once a year they have to report what is in the current fund. What is the makeup? What stocks are in there? I think it's in November. And in that time, the month before that, there's usually a lot of buying and selling because they're trying to get their portfolio right. Now, here's a real geeky thing. Look at the stocks that a company, that your mutual fund invests in. When you get that statement, I think it's in November or December, when they say, here's what we're all invested in. Look at those stocks and then be real geeky and put them on a spreadsheet and see where they were a year ago and see where they are now. And see what the average return on those stocks is. Now, it won't be perfect because you don't know how many of what they got. But look at what the average return is. And then look at your individual portfolio and subtract out what you have put in during the year. Your donations or your ads. And see what your balance would be. Okay, see if your balance is in line with what the average of those stocks are. Why you want to do something that geeky? Because then you'll know if they did a whole lot of switches. If they had a whole lot of stocks that switched, that were doing bad, and they sold them right before they had to report and bought stuff that was blue chip, as we call it, and then that's what they reported. Is that illegal? Not necessarily. This stuff is not illegal. It's just, and I'm not saying all financial advisors do this. I'm not saying any specific ones do this. I'm saying, but here's a way to find out if the fund that you're in, if they're playing numbers games. It's not illegal. I'm not saying it's illegal. I'm not telling you any of this stuff is illegal. Again, this is all my opinion. This is all what I've read. Okay, what I've studied and looked up and said, wait a minute, that's not making sense. So getting back to it, again, in your best interest. Is your financial advisor acting in your best interest? Because the time to figure out, there was another commercial, the guy said he had been talking for years with his financial advisor about the kids. And then he realized that his financial advisor was talking about his kids and not the guy's kids. Okay. The worst time to realize that you've been in a bad financial vehicle is, right when you're about to retire. Okay. People, I can't express it more. The reason I do this show is because I want people to spend some time understanding their money. Understand in your best interest. Understand when somebody is acting in your best interest and when people are acting in their own best interest. Okay? Because that's the reality. Again, fund managers, they are paid a percent of the fund. They are not paid based on the return. Some may be. If they are, it will be in the prospectus. But remember, as a salesperson, anybody who's ever been in sales, salespeople will sell what you pay them to sell. If you have a financial advisor that says, you know what, my fee will be a quarter of the return, of the investment return on this fund, or a tenth or whatever of the investment return. That's a guy or a woman that you might want to talk to. Because what they're saying is, if we don't make you any money, we ain't getting paid. So then everybody's got their hands in everybody else's shorts. That was a really bad visual, and I'm sorry. But my point is, everybody's got to be on the same page. Your goal with your investments is to grow them. Two ways. One, to make regular deposits into your investment account, but also that the person managing your investments is managing them in such a way that they will grow. Okay, that they will grow from the investments, from the opportunities. See, here's the thing. We could talk about stocks, and believe me, I will talk about stocks a lot on this show. You can get me in a room. You can get the guy from Mad Money. You can get a bunch of different analysts in a room and talk about one stock. At the end of the day, either if you own it, we're going to tell you to sell it or hold it. If you don't own it, we're going to tell you to buy it or not to buy it. Those are the two answers you're going to get from us. And I guarantee you, if they can show you charts and statistics and all these other things that the stock has done in the past, and every third Tuesday it does this and all of this stuff, and I'll sit there and I'll probably do 3 minutes worth of analysis and I'll give you my opinion. None of us will guarantee our opinions. Okay? Because we don't know. We don't know. There's a movie that just came out called Gold. And for me, it's, first of all, the movie's true. It's about these guys who discovered a gold mine in some foreign country, and their company stock blew up overnight. They were huge. And it came out a little while later that the gold was all fake, that these guys were like literally spraying gold on the ground and calling it, saying they had a gold mine. I remember that story because that was right around the time, it was around 1985, 86, 87, somewhere in there, because I was just starting to get into investing. And I remember that story because it was like, wow. You look at Pokemon Go. What was that, Nintendo? I think they own that. Or whatever company owned it. Nobody saw that coming. But when that thing popped, stock shot up 10% in one day. Sears, who I used to work for, their stock went up 50% 2 days ago. Nobody saw that coming. Financial advisors can tell you anything they want. Nobody saw that coming. So nobody is going to guarantee you anything. Nobody is going to guarantee any return on any individual stock because we just don't know. That is the big secret. I'm not a financial advisor, but the financial analyst. Any stock. Well, will Apple go up 5%? Yes or no? I don't know. I hope so, but I don't know. Okay, that's the big secret. We don't know. People don't. You know as much about a stock, and we'll talk about how the stock market works, about when you got 90% of the people don't have a clue what's going on. The 10% that do are trying to figure out how to jump in front of the 90% to make money. That's how the stock market works, okay? We'll get into that. But the point is, a fund manager, hedge fund manager, and here's think about a hedge fund. A hedge fund basically borrows money to invest. Now, why do you do that? Well, if you want to loan me some money to invest, I'm cool with that. Versus tying my own money up. What it does is, if I have $100 and I borrow $100 from you, now I got $200 to invest. So I can invest in twice as many things. And then if I make return on those things, I give you $100 back. But I keep the return. Okay? Hedge funds, that's why they call them hedge. You borrow money. They borrow money from this source to invest. Okay? But again, the bottom line with investments, unless it's a guaranteed government bond, nobody has a clue what is really going to happen to any stock. Now, got about 5 minutes left. 2 weeks ago, I was asked a question by Vince. He's not on here right now, but Vince Crawford asked me a question. He said, how would the current president's policies impact small business? First of all, I read something in the last 2 weeks, and it said, and it was very true, most of what happens in Washington has no impact on Wall Street, meaning most of what the politicians usually do have no immediate impact on companies. This current president has switched that all upside down because he made a comment on Twitter about Nordstrom's 2 days ago, and their stock took a tiny hit for a couple of minutes and then it shot up. Okay, but it was all because of he said something in Twitter. We haven't had this before. We haven't had a president who regularly comments on companies. Okay, we have not had that. Okay, but to answer the question first, you got to think about it like this: How do I think this president's policies will impact small business? What impacts small business? Things that make people buy from small business. Why do people buy from small businesses versus large businesses? Mostly because they're local. You know, I'm not going on Amazon. I'm not going on the web looking for a small business. I'm buying from a small business because they're right around the corner and they got something I need. What policies will impact me making that decision? Not too many. Again, 90% of the time, anything that happens on Wall Street or in Washington does not impact Wall Street. This is different now. This president is doing things, saying things that are directly impacting companies because we have social media now, because he can say things and immediately they are heard around the world. Okay. But I don't see, if you look at it from the standpoint, okay, customers coming in, you look at it from the other standpoint of rules as far as taxes and write-offs and things like that, I don't see any of that really changing. At least not immediately. It might change in years from now, but right now I don't see that changing. Okay. My answer, I can't answer the question, I guess is what I'm saying, because it's not an answerable question in my opinion. There's nothing that I can see this president doing other than mentioning your small business that would impact your small business directly. It's like people, you know, the president in general, the president, what he does has less impact on my day-to-day life than does, say, my local mayor, my local chief of police, okay, my local attorney general. Those people have more of an impact on my immediate life than does the president. So there's not really an answer to that question. I think if you have a small business, just like if you're an individual, well, one way, depending on how small your business is, depending on if you have employees under the Affordable Care Act who are offering insurance, that's probably going to impact you because of what they're trying to do in Washington to eliminate the Affordable Care Act. That's going to impact you, most likely, if they pass it. Other than that, I can't think of any immediate impact small businesses will feel even over the long term, over the next 4 years. That would impact small businesses based on something that the president, vice president, or Congress does in Washington. All I can say is your goal as small business is just to encourage local people to come and buy your products. Nothing the president can say, in my opinion, would stop people from doing that. So anyway, thank you for listening, people. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope hope I'm getting across to people. Again, I'm not selling anything. All I'm trying to say is, people, we need to learn about our money. I've been blessed with a lot of knowledge and been a geek enough to study a lot of stuff, and I'm just trying to spread the knowledge. Anything I say is my own personal opinion. I do not mean to impugn the reputation of anyone. This is just my opinion. Okay. I don't think anybody's ripping anybody off. I think everything is above board. They're telling you what they're doing. We're just not reading it. We're just not listening. Okay. My goal is to get people to just read and understand their money. Okay. Let's understand your money, people. money impacts everything we do. We need to make a concerted effort to understand it. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I'm not rich, but I've learned things, and I don't want to die and not have shared these things with people. And then somebody else has to come behind me and learn it all again. So anyway, again, people, thank you so much. I'll be back in 2 weeks and probably talking about the 2007 market collapse. That's be pretty interesting. I'll try to break down all the things that happened at once, how it was a perfect storm of so many things happening at the same time that led to the stock market collapse and the financial collapse that was global. So everybody who hung in there with me, thank you, all you geeks, you money geeks. I appreciate it. If you got a subject or topic you want me to talk about, just hit me on FaceTime or hit me instant message me on Facebook. Okay, I'll be more than happy. If I don't know about it, I'll be more than happy to go read about it and maybe we can talk about it. So with that, everybody, peace. Have a very good week. Sorry I was so late this week. I'm usually going to get back to 10 o'clock, but I was, this morning I was voted as vice president of a local historic museum. So I was in a grant writing class all morning. So I'm thankful, proud of that. Rosenwald School in Hiram. There's great institution. So anyway, everybody, thank you again. Take care. God bless. And I will talk to you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.